Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Jamie Photography. So last week I was very fortunate to be at work in Copenhagen in Denmark. I took the time to go for a walk in the evening. This was about 10 o'clock in the evening at Danish time to look at Nyhavn, which is Danish for New Harbour. A beautiful part of Copenhagen. You can take some great shots from the other side of the quay. Wonderful restaurants to visit along here. Copenhagen itself is quite an old city. It was founded as a city in 1254, and prior to that, it was actually originally a settlement starting around 1167. So it's been there a long time. And if you get a chance to come over to Europe, it's a wonderful place to visit. And of course, the Danish people are lovely people. But I was there last week, got to have a wander around, captured this shot, and I'm going to take you through on this video and show you how we produce this. So where did we start? Well, I took one image which was slightly longer to get as much of the light as we could, but then we had too much in the way of highlights, so very difficult image to shoot because huge amounts of contrast. And then I also did a darker shot to try to make sure I got the highlights right. So we're going to look at how we can bring these together and blend these into this image. And we're going to predominantly use Photoshop this time. I'm going to show you how to use the layers and how to use layer masks in a way that helps you blend images together. So I'm going to talk you through that process, and hopefully it'll help you understand how layers work in Photoshop as well. So if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube, click like for this video and subscribe and join me on this ever running adventure that I'm having. And if you have time, I always appreciate a comment. Feel free to pop down below, click the comment section. Also welcome questions and certainly any tips that anybody might have. Always look forward to that. If you'd like to follow along, I've put the two raw images in a link down below. Feel free to download those and follow along with everything that I'm doing. All I ask is you respect my copyright. So if you do use the images, then please just give credit to myself, Jamie R. Mathlin. Okay, let's get started. So as you can see, I exposed here 15 seconds f8 ISO 100. So I try to keep the ISO as low as possible to reduce the noise as much as I can. So as you can see, I've got a little bit of quayside in here, and I was on a tripod so I could get 15 seconds, but I didn't want to get too close to the edge, so I was back a little bit. So we'll have to deal with this. I'm not sure I want this in the shot at the moment. We'll take that out. But what you'll see is I've exposed here, trying not to blow out the highlights too much, but of course I have done with this shot, but I needed to get as much information as I could for the darker areas. And if I open up the shadows here, you'll see that we've got quite a bit of detail here, all usable, but the highlights really are struggling. Even if I bring the highlights down to 0, you'll see that we've still blown out in these areas and it doesn't look natural. So what I also did was took a second shot, which was about 3 stops darker, so 2.5 seconds this time. Same thing, we've got the shadows opened all the way up, and you can bring the highlights down now, and you'll see that the highlights actually start to work a little bit better. They're still a little bit bright, as you can see here, but we're still outside what the camera was capable of. So really I could have gone a little bit darker, but we can work with that. So bringing down the highlights, open up the shadows, getting the whites and the blacks sorted. Now I think I've shown you this before. You can hold down the Alt key and then you can move the whites back and forth until you see the whites appear. So just before the whites appear, plus 17. Do the same with the blacks. Bring the blacks down. Just start to see a little bit of black appearing. So I'm just going to hold off just slightly there. So plus 17, plus 22 on this one. Let's do the same on the other shot as well. So hold down the Alt key. Bring that down so the whites are just not there, because we don't want them burnt out. There we go. And do the same with the blacks. Bring those blacks down. Ooh, just a little bit, just tiny touching the blacks there. There we go. So we've got our highlight, shadows, whites and blacks sorted, so we can see what we're working with the two images. So we've got the darker image and we've got the brighter image. And in fact, that darker image, maybe we want to just bring that up just a little bit more, just so I can see the detail here, where the people are, where the lights are. Now what I do need to do is I need to denoise these images. Now it may not look like there's a lot of noise in here because it was ISO 100, but you know, by pushing the shadows all the way open, it does really sort of bring it up a number of stops. And if I look at the sky here, you'll see there is a little bit of noise in the sky. So let's do what I normally want to do. Go down to detail, on the right hand side here, and we're going to use denoise, but I need to do both. So I'm just going to hold down the shift key and click the second of the two pictures here. So both of them are highlighted, and then we're going to click on denoise. It's going to calculate what we need. So here I'm thinking, well, how high should we go? So let's just go up and have a look at the sky. So there's, without the enhancement, a bit of noise, and then with enhancement, noise goes. So I can bring that down a little bit, trying to find where the noise disappears. Still see a little bit of noise there at 34. Let's try 40. It's better. Let's go to 50. So yeah, there we go. 50 just about gets where we want to be. So I'm happy with that. So it's going to say it's going to take 15 seconds to do the two. So I'll start the enhancement process, and it will work away, as you can see up in the top left corner there. And it will process those for us. So I know I've mentioned it many times, but the denoise function can vary considerably from one machine to another. And most of it is about the performance of your graphics card and how much memory you have on your graphics card. So ideally you need certainly no more than 3 or 4 year old graphics card, but with 3 or 4 gigabytes of memory on the graphics card will make it work very well. Or if you're going with Mac, anything with the M chips, the Apple chips from 2020 onwards, because they share the memory with the graphics card and the CPU on board, so it's integrated memory. So anything with 16 gigabytes and above as a machine will work absolutely fine. Even the 8 gigabyte versions work reasonably well with denoise, but it will vary depending on the performance of the machine. So sometimes you might have to be just a little bit patient to get through there. But anyway, we've done those. So we've now got another 2 copies, one of each with which is now stated as an enhanced noise reduction DNG. So we've got 2 of those. There's that one, and there's that one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these and we can combine them. Right now, the traditional way to combine these is I'm just going to highlight the 2 noise reduction images, as you can see them here. This one and this one. So number 1 selected, hold down the Command or Control key and just select the other one. So I've got the 2 that we want. Now, we could do the traditional way forward, which is to right click, go to Photo Merge, go to HDR, okay, and then just click HDR, and the HDR module will open, and it will just process that image, and it will tell us, how best to combine those 2 images together. There we go. And you've got auto align ticked, and you've also got auto settings clicked as well. And because it was a bit of a timed delay, what we'll do is we will add a little bit of deghost in here. So I'm just going to select low, and that just means if there's anything that's moving or looks like it's moving, it will try to use the slower image to try to show that it's not moving too much. And then I'm not going to create a stack, so we would just click merge now, and again you can see at the top left corner it will merge the 2 together. And as it does, it will provide it down in the film strip at the bottom, and there you go. You can see it with the three little boxes here, and then we can click on that. And what that's done is taken the best of the bright, the best of the dark, and tried to bring them together. And we can make adjustments on that even more. I can bring down the highlights just a little bit more. We can open up the shadows just a little bit more, and to be honest, it works reasonably well. But you'll see there just a little bit of ghosting on this chap's face, and a little bit on the faces and the heads here, and you can see there's little marks around. And if you weren't blowing that up so big, it was just going to be an Instagram shot, then it wouldn't really matter. But certainly if you were going to blow this up much bigger, you'd need to find a way to prevent that sort of thing from happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 images that we've got, these 2 noise reduction images, so 1 and 3. So click number 1, hold down the Control or Command key, select number 3. And this time we're going to right click on those. We're going to go to Edit In, and we're going to go across to Photoshop. But rather than saying Edit in Photoshop here, we're going to go right down to the bottom, then we're going to find Open as Layers in Photoshop. Okay. There is also an option there to open as HDR Pro in Photoshop. That works quite well in brighter images, but with darker images like this, you're certainly going to struggle. So I'm just going to go over into Photoshop. So what we've got is the two images, as you can see here, that we transferred across. So we've got the dark one and we've got the bright one. Now, layers is always a little bit complex in Photoshop, and once you understand it, you're fine, but it's getting to understand how layers work. It's relatively straightforward. Look at your layer stack, and whatever's at the top is what you see. And if you turn off the top one, you'll see the one below it, because there's one below it. And if you turn that one off, you'll see nothing, because there's nothing below it. So that's the lowest one, and that's the one on top. And what we can do is we can make the top one semi-see-through, so the bottom one shows through. That's one way of doing things. So you could take the top one here, go to the blending mode here where it says normal, and select one of the modes, which, like screen for example, which will then blend the two images together just on a 50-50. And you can change the occupancy over here, and you can move that down, and we can find a balance between the two. So the top one is now semi-see-through, and we've decided how much see-through it's actually going to be by just moving this slider. So if we turn the top one off, so there's the darker background as we were talking about, and there is the occupancy levels. I've got 72 at the moment with screen overlaid on. Now, to be honest, that works reasonably well. I'm quite happy with that, but I want to be a little bit more selective in some of these areas. So what I'm going to do is going to show you how to do that. So let's turn this screen off and go back to normal. Let's turn the occupancy off, and let's put that back to normal as well. You can without even applying the screen, you can just use the occupancy to bring the two together. So you've got the darker one but at the bottom and the brighter one at the top. But using the screen function actually gives you quite an advantage. So what we're going to do with them both set to normal, as you can see, they're both set to normal. There's no blending mode. They're both set to occupancy 100. So we're back to where we were. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to add a mask. Now, again, talking about layers, how they work, you understand that you've got the one on top, the one behind. So if we turn the one on top off, you've got the one behind. Well, the one on top, we can, as I just showed you, we can make it transparent. But what we can do is we can apply a mask. And if you look down the bottom here, you'll see a little flag here, layer masks. If you click on that, it will create a layer mask. Now what this is your ability to be able to paint where you want it to be see-through, either 100% or not. When it's white, that means it hides the background behind, so it's not see-through. When it's black, it lets everything through. So if I click invert here, and this is in the properties tab here, if you don't have that showing, just go up to Windows at the top here, go down and select properties, and you'll get your property window open. If it pops up as a separate window, you can pull it over and add it to your layers on this side. You just grab it at the top here, and you can just move them around. This is, if it appears, you can see there's my layers. So I'm just going to pop that back in the top there like that. What you find is, and there's a divider between, look, so I can decide how much I want the layer mask here. If I click invert, it'll go to black, right? Which means that the background comes through 100%, and the top layer is no longer visible. So I don't want that. What I want to do is stick with the top one, and then we can either darken down these layers to make it work, or you could always switch the other two round and brighten it up. So let me show you that as well. Let me do this one first. So I want to darken down these areas which are a bit too bright by using the one that's behind. So we need to select a brush. So you can go over here and you can select brush here, or you can just press B and it will select the brush for you. Now at the top, you'll get a number of functions that appear with a brush, and you've got different modes as well. So you can use the blending mode with the brush selectively if you want to. You've got a pull down which gives you the size, but you can vary the size using the square brackets to the left of the return key, so I can make that bigger or smaller there. You've got hardness. So if our hardness is at 0, that means it has a full 100% feather, and if hardness is at 100%, it means it's got a really hard edge. And if I just select these to maximum for a second, so you can just see what happens is if I draw on there with very hard edges and occupancy and flow at 100, it will just let the background through. So for example, if I cut across here, you'll see now that's 100% the lower layer, right? So we don't want to do that. We want to have a nice smooth edge. So we're going to go into there and select hardness at 0. Okay. You've got different types of brushes you can select here, which are presets, which will preset your occupancy and flow rates. You can see those here. And we want smoothness at 100%. Now what is important is that you have this little spray brush turned on, and that allows you to build up layers of painting effectively inside this layer mask. So make sure you clicked on the layer mask, you've got your brush selected, and we're going to paint with black. If this isn't black, this top one, you can press X to swap them over. Also, you can click these 2 little arrows and you can swap them over. So we want a black brush. We want to make sure you're on the layer here for the top one, and then we've pre-selected. I pre-selected one of the brushes here, which gives me 20% occupancy, 20% flow. If you want to change that, you can just click on that and type in the number that you want. So I'm going to go with 30% occupancy, 30% flow. Okay. So what that means is this is how much it's going to apply, and this is how it will flow onto the page. 100% smoothing. Now let's take a slightly bigger brush. Now let's say this, for example, we're concerned how bright this is, right? So I'm just going to start to apply that brush across there, and I'm holding it down and I'm just moving it backwards and forwards, just gently adding a little bit of the background in. Same here, look, I'm just working my way down here, and I'm just darkening down these areas because I'm using the background. Now it probably doesn't look obvious, so let me just turn these flows up much higher, the occupancy and flow up, and I'll do it again here, and there you go. You can see that I'm bringing the darker background through. You can see that, look. I'm just applying that. I haven't taken my finger off yet, so it's just one continuous brush but now I've stopped. So to undo that, I can just do Command or Control Z, and that'll put us back to where we were. So I'm just going to go back to a lower flow rate. Let's perhaps go 50-50. Let's go 50 there and 50 here. Okay, and then we're just going to work around the areas we know we just want to be a little bit darker. There we go, just a little bit along there. So it's not sort of the bright lights, the highlights are not burning their way through. Now we can also do a selective highlight removal in here, but I'm just going to show you how layers work for now, and we can also, when we go back into Lightroom, we can also look at how to deal with this. So now that's working a lot better. I'm quite happy with that. Ideally, what I'd want to do is perhaps make these boats a little bit brighter. Okay. So how we can do that is we can click on this top layer, the bright layer we've got. We can right click on the layer, and what we can do is we can say duplicate the layer. Okay, so we click on duplicate the layer and we'll get a copy. There it is. That's the one that's on top. Okay, so that one's come on top, and it carries the additional layer mask as well. And the reason why it goes brighter is because there's now 2 of them on there. So I'm just going to take away the layer mask here for a moment. So I'm just going to highlight it, press delete, and that will get rid of it. So now on top, we've got the bright one again. If I remove that, we've got the one that we've blended the images together. Can you see that? Yeah. So that's looking a lot better. So why would I put this one on top? Well, this one I want to make brighter. So I'll select this top one, the one that we can see at the moment. Okay. I'm going to go up to image. I'm going to go to adjustments. Okay. And then I'm going to go to brightness and contrast. All right. So I'm just going to select that, and I'm going to make this top layer a little bit brighter. So let's come up to about 30. Not going to add any contrast to that. So I'm just going to click OK. I'm also going to go back into that image there. I'm going to go to adjustments, and I'm going to go down to shadows and highlights. All right. I'm going to click on that. So, and you can see it's already got a 35% shadow increase there. So that's fine. If it's at 0, you can either type 35 in there, or you can select how bright you want to make it yourself. So now we've got a really bright image on the top. Okay. So let's just go back. That's the image that we had. Okay. So we've got the lights around the restaurants and everything's perfect. This new super bright one's too bright over here. It's too bright, but the boats look really good. Okay. So what we're going to do? Well, let's stick a layer mask on that top one. Okay. And then what we're going to do effectively is let's invert that. So we'll make it black this time, okay? So we can see through completely, right? So now the top one turned on or off makes no difference because we've got a see-through mask, right? So this time we can paint in white. So go back to my brush, B, right? And then select the color to white. So either use the little arrows or press X. So now we've got white. So now we're going to apply white to a black mask, okay? So when I do that, I'll just do one for now. We're at 50-50 at the top. So I'm just going to bring that mask in, just gradually painting a little bit over. You see how it's brightening up those areas there? You can see that. So just brightening that up just a little bit as we come through there. Don't really need to brighten up the reflection in the water. I'll make my brush bigger using the square brackets to the left of the return key. I'll just do one strike down through there. Just going to come through. There we go. That's better. Right. So now this is looking better, but I want to really brighten up the boats. Now, if you want to do some selective brightening through here, what you can do is you can just go back to quite a low flow and you can gently build a little bit more light around certain parts, like the boats, for example, here in the reflection. So I'm just going to make the brush a little bit smaller here. Just pick up the end of the boat there. This little bit here. This boat's quite nice through here. These boats are moving a little bit down there. There you can see they're slightly blurred. So just make sure that their shadows are nice and bright as well. There we go. Maybe just a little bit more in here. So we're being quite selective with that sort of light through there. In fact, I might probably even just make these a little bit brighter and just go through and just add that little bit more, just colouring it in. There we go. Now this is a little bright over here, right? I know we started with that, but what we can do is just swap the brush over. So press X or use the little arrows to go back to black, and that will start to do the opposite. So we can just click gently here, paint backwards and forwards, and just darken that down. There we go, bring that back down so it's not too bright there. So that's how the layer masks work. That's how you can brighten or darken, or even add effects if you wanted to. You could add effects by taking a new layer, making the effect on it, and I'll show you very quickly. So let's take this one, the top one that we've got now. We're going to right click on the layer over here. We're going to duplicate the layer. Okay, so this is copy 2. So that's going to go on top, so it's even brighter. Yeah, so we can turn it off. Even brighter. It actually looks quite good, to be fair. I'm quite happy to keep that, you see, just by adding that extra layer. We do have a bit of blooming going on just around the edge, a bit of halo around the edge of this building there where we've lit that building up. So we just need to find where that is. So let's turn off the top one. Let's turn off the one below. So it came in from this one here, right? So we can go back to that one because you can see it's appeared there. What we can do is go back over onto the layer mask here. And what we want to do is paint in black on this layer. So we go to brush, we're in black, we will just come up here and we will just remove, let's bring that flow and occupancy up a little bit. We will just remove the bit that was there, here we go, just to take that bit of halo away that was there. So I'm just going to delete the layer above because it was a copy of the one below. Right, and then I'm going to click on that one there. I'm going to go to this side, right click and duplicate the layer again. Okay, so we're going to say, yep, and now that's gone. Do you see? Because we removed it from the relevant layer. So I think that's important that you understand how that works. A little bit bright here. Can you see it's just a little bit bright here? So what we want to do is be on the actual mask, and then we can select the black for the brush. And then we can just bring that back down just a little bit, as it was just a little bit too bright there. There we go, just so you got that beautiful detail. Now, this top layer, the one that we've created, we wanted to keep that because it gives us what we want here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another layer mask. So I'm just going to right click on that again. I'm going to duplicate this layer again. All right, now this one we don't want too bright, because it sort of lit it up a little bit too bright this time. Still looks good. We can always adjust the one below if we want to make it brighter. So I'm just going to go into this one here, and I'm just going to go back into image and adjustments and go into brightness. And I'm just going to darken this one down just a little bit, just to get us back to where we were. So I'm going to go down -30 there, and that gets us where we were. So now that's the image we're working with, because I've turned the top layer off. This is the bright image that we want to use, but it is quite a bit brighter. So what I'm going to do is going to go to filter. I'm going to go down to sharpen, okay, and I'm going to click sharpen at the top. So this image will be sharper now, this top one. So if I turn it off, you'll see there's a little bit more sharpness in there. So what we can do now is add another layer mask to this top one here, okay? And again, we want the background to show through, so black reveals, okay? So it reveals everything behind. If it's white, it conceals, okay? White conceals. So what we're seeing is the top layer and nothing behind it. So if we go to black, we don't see the top layer because it's all black. Now we can do the same thing. We can grab our brush and we can select white, so X, all the little arrows, and then we can take quite a large brush this time, and we can start to add in that sharpness and that little bit extra brightness just into the shot, like so. Just bringing that through. I'm going to just make the brush quite big because I want to pick up a little bit more brightness in the sky as well. So I'm just bringing that through there. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with this image now. We can do some final touches in Lightroom when we go back. But for now, we've got all of these stacked layers that we were working with. And hopefully that helped you understand how they work in terms of order and what a layer mask does. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of them here. So the top one was highlighted. I held down the Shift key and clicked the bottom one. Right click on here, and I'm just going to merge the layers. Okay, you can merge the layers or you can merge to visible, and that will just effectively take everything and just give us that final image that we were working with. So I want to make a couple of minor adjustments here. We were talking about this let me just go back to a pointer. We were talking about this removing the key side here, so I still think I'd like to do that. And there's a van plunked right in the middle there. I want to remove that. So go back to one of our favorite things of all, which is generative fill. So I'm just going to select, going to go here to the lasso tool, L, and I'm going to select the polygonal selection. That means I can draw straight lines. I'm going to move this out the way for a minute. And what we're going to do is we're just going to remove this bit down here. So I'm just going to move the image down. I'm going to start off the image. I click once with this polygonal, and I'm just going to come along here. I'm just going to make sure I'm just outside the key there. I'm going to go up and over, just take these railings out, and then back down to the bottom. You see we come off the screen, and I'm just going to come back up there, put that back in the middle there, and we go to generative fill, and we're just going to, nothing in the box, we're just going to write generate, and it's going to run the generative fill algorithm, and it's going to remove this and hopefully produce some good reflection, additional reflection where it would be. So let's see what it comes up with. Of course, it come up with 3 options. So there's option 1. That's pretty good. I like that. Option 2, a little bit shorter mask. I'm not too worried about this because we're going to take some of that out with a crop in a minute. And option 3, not so good. So I think option 1's quite good here. A little bit dark. So let's just increase the resolution of this, and you go up onto the little boxes up here in properties, and you'll see there's a little up arrow there. If you click on that, that will enhance the detail of the area that you were looking at, you were dealing with. So it's just doing that at the moment. When it's done, I'm going to ask it to give me something similar. So I'm going to click on the 3 little dots and generate similar. So it's going to now look at the enhanced version, and it's going to effectively try to do something very similar, and maybe it'll give us a little bit more light in this area and not so much of a cutoff over here, and hopefully that will look even more realistic. Or it's put a little bit of a boat in there. So it's given us 3 more options. So there's another boat in there, there's a boat in there, so not so good. We're just going to stick with that one. So that was the enhanced version. So let's just crop this slightly, because we can do a little bit distracting over here. Just going to come away from generative fill for a second. We're going to go to the crop tool up in the top left corner here, C. We're going to click that, and we're just going to pull this over So it takes that out. I keep the edge of that little boat there. That works quite well. And I'm just going to bring down the top here, because you see how we've just clipped the top of the building there. Just going to bring that down. If you're going to clip. You see, that's better. And then we just need to make sure that the key is in the center. So this just needs to come up just a little bit. So I'm just going to bring the bottom up just a little bit. And I'm just going to get it ahead of that little window there so we don't have that showing. So that's fine. Hit enter, and that will then render that new crop. So that's pretty good. So there's two things I want to do here. I want to remove the van we were talking about here. And I also, now we've got a little bit of sky up there. So we can use the remove tool for that. So let's just select the remove tool. Make sure you're on the background layer there for the remove tool to work. And then I'm just going to come in here and hit the check mark. If you want to make it remove each time, you can just have this turned on here. But I'm just going to click the check mark there, and it will just render that in. I'm just going to run across that little line there just to run again, just to make sure it looks, that's not so good. Command C to undo. So that's okay. We'll darken that corner later, maybe just that little bit there we will remove. So and then what we'll do is we'll darken these corners with a vignette a little bit later. Now the van is the one we want to get rid of. So let's zoom in. So I'm going to go to a little zoom here. Going to go down on here with the plus on it, and I'm going to zoom into the van. Okay. I'm going to change my selection tool. Okay. So this time I'm going to go to the polygonal again, and I'm going to draw some straight lines around. So I'm going to start somewhere, and I'm just going to go around the van, just using straight lines. You see, so I'm just clicking my way around, just drawing straight lines just to get round the van, down onto the key side, across to here, and then around the front of the van. So just taking little steps each time, coming up like so. And we'll come back. So now we've got a slightly different selection. We've got a straight line across the flag. So hopefully Generative Fill will be able to figure out how best to infill the little Danish flags that we've got there. So let's see what happens. I do notice that these are still rather too bright over here. Should have darkened them down a little bit more, but it's okay for now. So there's one, there's two, there's three. I think three, that one works quite well. So I'm going to stick with that one. I'm going to go back to the magnifying glass and fit screen, and we're going to come back out here. So yeah, I'm pretty happy now with the image that we've got. We've managed to control the highlights reasonably well. We've got quite a nice sky. We've got rid of that edge down here. So I'm just going to bring everything together. So I'm clicking on the bottom layer here, right clicking and just saying merge visible. So we're back to that image. So that's where I want to be, I think, with Photoshop. So let's go to File and Close, and let's go to Save, and it will take us back into Lightroom. So here's the image back in Lightroom. We've got the crop, the van's not there. We've got rid of the key side. This is the image that we're working with. So if you recall, we were working with this image here, yeah. And what we've done is we've gone to this image here. So we've got the brightness we want. We've got the detail we want. So we just need to finish this off. So I just want to darken a few areas, the top left corners. So I think we could go down to, let's turn detail off. We go down to effects, and in effects we can bring in a vignette. So I'm going to go -30 on the post crop vignette. Really important with these is with the feather. Try and open the feather up a little bit. I tend to bring it pretty well all the way, and then I can just alter my vignette ever so slightly more to make it work. That works okay. It's a little bit light here with this dark line from where we did the generative fill. The same here. So what we can do is go into masks. We'll select a brush, and we'll put the flow not too high, but lots of feather. And we will just bring the exposure down slightly, make the brush smaller. And then what we'll do is we will just come in here with a back and forward wash of darkness along that line. Can you see how it's just softening that line away? And the same here, we'll just darken that down ever so slightly. There we go. And it just removes it just a little bit. Just going to come in there as well. So just some final adjustments here. Just going to come out the masks, and we're just going to make some slight adjustments to this. We can bring down the highlights slightly, open up the shadows just a little bit more, not too much. Just going to brighten the whole scene a little bit. And then I'm just going to try and give it a little bit of a vintage look. And to do that, what you do is reduce the saturation down. Okay, so I'm going to come down about 20. You might think, oh, that's awful. What we can do is we'll come down there, but then we take the vibrance and we bring the vibrance up. Okay, so I'm going to give like plus 50 on vibrance, and it gives it quite a sort of almost a vintage look. Maybe just a little bit more on the saturation, just to make those colors pop. And I'm just going to add a little bit of temp in. Just to bring it up a little bit there. Little bit of contrast, just to darken that sky, brighten those areas up. I think that works quite well. Just a little bit more shadow as well. Going to check my whites and blacks again, so hold down the Alt key, go to the white there, just back those whites off slightly, go to the blacks, bring the blacks up until bring the blacks down until we get that black starting to appear a little bit in the bottom corner there. That works quite well. Overall, little tiny bit of texture just to make all the little details pop, the windows and everything else. Now, I don't want to apply clarity to the whole thing. That would be a bit too much. So we'll go to masks, select a brush, and then we'll have quite a low flow, 100% feather. We'll go down and we will select clarity. We've got a big chunk of clarity there, about 40. And then with the brush, going to make the brush a little bit bigger. I'm just going to wash across just the building fronts, just to make those pop a little bit smaller, and we will just pop in where the boats are as well, just to make the boats pop in the center of the screen. There's the clarity there, so selective clarity. And I think we're done really. I'm just going to try to find a happy space for the exposure. Bring down that highlight just a little bit more again. A little bit more saturation. I do love the colors here. They are really bright. And just bring that vibrance back just a little bit. Yeah, I think that works. And the last thing I'm going to do is just add in a little bit of magenta. There you go. I'm going to go with +7. And I would say that we're done. So Nyhavn in Copenhagen on the quayside. Fantastic place to visit. Wonderful restaurants along here. You can go and enjoy a nice evening out. And this was last week. The weather was fine. You can see the water was perfectly flat. So, well, if you enjoyed this, then please click like. And if you haven't already subscribed, it would be great for you to join my ongoing journey here on YouTube. And if you do have any comments or questions or tips that you want to give, feel free to put them down below. I always do my best to answer all the comments. But for now, I'm going to say bye-bye.